This is iFanboy Pick of the Week, number 925, brought to you by iFanboy listeners like you. My name is Josh Flanagan. I am here with Jarrod Patrick.
Hello.
And joining us in the third chair, it's Dr. Ryan Haupt.
Hello, I'm the grits to Josh's oatmeal, which I think makes Connor polenta. I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know. I know that polenta is not the same as oatmeal, but I don't know the difference between grits and oatmeal.
Just different grain-based forages.
Okay.
That's all.
I love grits. I want to be the grits.
Yeah, but I'm from
the South.
Do you love
the grits or do you love the gravy?
I give you polenta, which is like...
Gravy,
polenta is just Italian-American grits.
Oh. And porridge?
Well, porridge, I think, is any just stewed grain to where it breaks down to the point where it's like a starchy slurry, like
right.
Congee, like rice porridge in Asian cuisine is a type of porridge. So porridge, I think, is like it's the soup to the chicken noodle soup. It's the square, you know what I mean.
You could put some maple syrup in there. That's all I know. You put that in there, everything's gonna be fine. Maybe a brown sugar crumble. Did I say this is Pick of the Week number 925?
No,
because it is.
Yet.
Well, it was a rhetorical question, Connor. Try to keep up with me. Every week, one of us picks the book that they like the best from their stack of comics. We call that the Pick of the Week. I think you're putting this together. This is not the pick of last week or of next week. It's of this week that you're listening to. What is that?
Oh.
Now, yeah, that's... Connor and I've had a lot of conversations with this over the years.
I keep forgetting.
We've mostly kept it off the air, but there's been some close calls that required editing.
Yeah. Man, Josh, I think you do need a little brown sugar or maple syrup because you came in salty tonight.
That's right. We will talk about the comics from the week. We will talk about the pick of the week, the patron pick. That was out of order. I don't even care. There could be listener mail. You know what? We said last week, hey, man, we'll get to it. There's three of us. I'm just saying your odds aren't looking good, but who knows? It'll be a fun time. I can promise you that. Well, I can't promise, but it's a safe bet. I would go with that. There will be spoilers. And in the script, the thing it says after there will be spoiler warning. It says exercise some caution, but I saw exercise some critical thinking, and I was like, that's weird. And then
you saw that from caution?
For a second. I saw like exercise some criticism, and I was
both are good advice.
It's true. Ryan, you were handed the reins. You were given the task. You're the man holding the torch. What is the pick?
Yes, the pick this week, it was a relatively light week for me, and none of my books really stood out as the clear front runner for pick of the week. The book I ended up just in mulling it over, deciding that I liked the best was Ultimate Spider-Man #4, story by Jonathan Hickman, guest artist David Messina, with colors by Matthew Wilson and letters by Corey Pettit. And this issue is all about the perils of trying to make friends as an adult married couple. And that spoke to me.
It was, it took me a minute to realize where we were.
Yes.
It was a dinner between Peter and Mary and Harry and his surprise wife. We'll get to in a second. And I just couldn't remember, it was literally 3/4 way through. I went, oh, right. He just met Harry and Harry's the Green Goblin. Like it was just.
Right. Yeah, this is like, it's sort of flipping their 616 relationship on its head, where rather than being friends growing up, and then each of them assuming their identities as they mature into adulthood, this is taking the two adult versions of these characters, and they already have their secret identities, and they're becoming friends because of that shared experience, and then now introducing the wives into the mix and seeing how that plays out as a double date.
Someone needs to really send Peter a beard grooming video.
Yeah, I don't... Yeah.
Someone needs to go ahead and just excise the phrase, you clean up pretty good, mister, from all fiction. I saw that, and I thought, this is my biggest critical thing right here, is I saw it on the first page, and I thought, oh, come on, Hickman, you are better than that. It's just a cliche now that doesn't need to be put there. Say a different thing. You look nice. And also, he doesn't. He looks like a late 80s TV doctor. That's what he looks like.
I really didn't like the art in this at all. It was really bugging me the whole time. The face models were inconsistent. The fashions were, look at Mary Jane's leg on the first page. It's bending in an odd direction. It's just, I did not like the art in this. And I'm not happy to see he's drawing the next issue. On a book where the main draw is Kikado for me is not great. Not great. I didn't like this issue.
Go on, Ryan.
No,
I'm just listen. You said we came in salty. We're insulted. I understand. I can see why you would pick it. It was very much Bendis. It was very Bendisy. It was a lot of 9-panel grids, a lot of conversation.
That's actually a good observation. I hadn't made that connection.
And I don't think it was bad. I think the art I just couldn't get past out. In a book that's all about faces and conversation, I couldn't get past much. I could get past how much I disliked the faces.
What
so that really
is Messina? What would we? I mean, I know his name, but I'm trying to think about what it is I most recently would have seen him on. Anybody got that before I look it up?
No.
All right. Go ahead and talk.
Star Wars Dark Droids.
Huh.
That's probably it.
Okay. Well, works for that, but whatever.
Yeah, I did feel like I missed Chiquetto. Is it Chiquetto or Chiquetto? Chiquetto. I know we're trying to do better with the Italian names.
You got to get the Italians off our backs.
Somebody from Northern Italy is going to write in and be like, no, you say it wrong too. The Southern people, they say it wrong. Don't listen to them.
But I thought the way he drew the female characters in this issue had enough Dodson in it that I was okay with it. And I hadn't actually made that connection, Connor, of like Ultimate Spider-Man being the first Bendis book that I really sunk my teeth into, and this having that sort of Bendis super dialogue heavy. I also liked the scenes with Ben and J. Jonah with Peter and Mary Jane's kids. And then we haven't said the big reveal of the issue, but the big reveal is that Harry Osborn's wife is Gwen Stacy.
Right. It also took me a minute to be like, oh, right, they didn't go to high school. Like, you know, it's an alternate reality. They can do whatever they want, so it's fine. But it just took me a minute to have to be like, wait, okay, so they didn't go to high school together, because almost every story they all went to high school together, even in the original Ultimate Universe. So for a second, I just had to place my mind in where it was, and that was fine.
Question.
And they're allowed to do that, but it was just confusing for me for a minute.
Why is it significant that it's Gwen Stacy, other than, hey, look, here's this other character that is in a slightly because that's, to me. I'm so sorry, Ryan. I don't mean to do this to you, but I don't know what's interesting about that other than being like, that's Gwen Stacy. We know her from different circumstances. So does it like was there a thing between them in like standard continuity, Gwen and Harry, or is it just that she now exists in this world? Well, there's a thing
between her, Gwen and Norman, thanks to J. Michael Straczynski, but
nope.
Less said about that, the better.
Because it didn't happen.
Right. We've all removed that from everything that matters. No, it's just a reveal of Gwen's always a big reveal for Peter, even though in this universe it's irrelevant.
He doesn't know her. Right,
that's why. I mean, it's irrelevant in this universe, so it's more of a reveal for us than for him. So that is what it is. That's the whole thing about alternate universes, that you're just playing with. Oh, now this character you know is in this different position.
I feel like I feel like, you know, it's like a page turn. Like the last page is like, here's this character, and if you don't really know what it means or it doesn't have any significance, then I don't know what the point is. And so,
at this point, if you're reading a Spider-Man comic book in the year of 2024, you know who Gwen Stacy is.
No, I know that. It's not my point. It's not that I don't know who she is, but I don't know.
I know.
I don't know what the point. Like, there's no significance to the fact. It's just a thing that has happened. It doesn't really mean anything. And I'm wondering, you know, obviously later, this is either going to touch on something that is a comment on the original series, or isn't going to mean anything. It's just a Spider-Man character soup, and they threw everything on the ground, and these are the pieces that went together.
I guess this is the first time I've seen Gwen introduced into a new storyline where it's not Spider-Gwen. And it's weird to me to be like living in a world, our world, the real world, where like I have a niece who has like an emotional attachment to Spider-Gwen, the version of Gwen Stacy that's like an alternate spider person, and the Gwen Stacy that was just the girl next door that everyone had a crush on is like forgotten. So I think, you know, like I said, I had a hard time.
Everyone had a crush on her. It's in their 60s now, because that's when that came out.
They still had a crush on her.
Yeah.
I had a hard time making the pick this week, and I think this eked out some of the other books that I read just because of a couple of scenes in particular. I really liked the scenes with Ben and J. Jonah Jameson. I think the relationship between those two characters is not something I've seen explored before. And it's interesting to see Ben in sort of not just a parental role, but a grand parental role with Peter and Mary Jane's kids. And I actually really liked those scenes with them together. And then I liked the scene where the wives had gone to the bathroom and Peter and Harry have like the moment across the table where Harry realizes like, oh, Peter hasn't told Mary Jane what he's doing at night. And I thought that was actually an interesting setup where Harry's like, no, I told Gwen everything. Gwen knows I'm the Green Goblin. She's on board. You should
That's
probably
how
tell your
long
wife.
it took me to remember that what had happened in the previous issue. That was the scene. It's like, oh, right. So
I thought the final scene where MJ and Peter are walking home and kind of just reflecting on like, well, we just had a dinner date with 2 billionaires. How did that go? And he's sort of trying to convince her about this sort of notion of heroism and the world needing heroes. And she says, what do I need heroes for, Peter? I've got you. And I was like, that was a really sweet little moment. And it's them walking off with their arms around each other. And it ended on a nice note of like a married couple who are still into each other and having a good time. And
you don't
their
need
best
to justify it.
Well, no, I'm not justifying. I'm explaining.
I know. I'm just letting you know. You don't feel.
I think it's interesting the things that you picked up on in this, because it was a different experience than the one that I had. And you did mention I think that Uncle Ben watching the grandkids, who I had to remember were the grandkids. Like,
well, they still call him Uncle Ben, which is interesting.
I know, I get it. And it's all because it would be the uncle.
Yeah, he'd be their granduncle.
Every time we get back in here, I'm like, what are all the? Because there's been so many versions of these people all the time, and I really liked the most interesting thing, the best sort of breadcrumb I thought in this one was the fact that the kid didn't like J. Jonah Jameson,
the daughter, yeah,
and I thought that's an interesting bit there. So, I mean, it could be just a one-off gag. Or it could be like she's got some sense that some shit is up and he's not.
Because we haven't seen anything but him being awesome to this point.
Right.
In fact, I noticed that on the cover, it's Ben's desk, I guess, and on his phone's ringing, and J. Jonah is the caller, and it's a photo of him yelling. And I thought, oh, that's not the J. Jonah we've seen. That's the J. Jonah from the other universe. In terms of how he's portrayed. So that could be clues that he's got more going on than been shown so far.
Well, if you think about it, like, there are no bad guys.
Right, because we expected the Green Goblin to be a villain reveal, but instead it seems
like the bad guy's the Illuminati or whoever the
I guess, but like there's no
the Maker.
There's no villain, right? But we haven't even seen that character. So the closest we have is, I don't remember, was it the Shocker?
Well, Kingpin in issue 1, then we had Shocker.
Yeah, but like but that's the closest it's gotten. It's not like there is a shadowy figure. We have not seen him. I think the thing about this book, and I'm trying to wrap my head around, is as I read it, I do not find it to be unenjoyable. I keep struggling with it, and this was the same thing we said about Blade too, is I keep struggling with the fact that because it's Ultimate Spider-Man, it's a new version of this thing, and it's from the Ultimate Universe kind of thing, except not. That's weird. It's incredibly mundane. And it's weird because you want it to be like, here's the big thing. And this is from Jonathan Hickman too, who's like, thing is not mundane, and instead it's just like, okay, this is a dinner date, and this is, I kind of found the Osborns insufferable a little, right. And I was just like,
supposed to.
I get it, but I had to spend the whole issue with them.
Yeah,
and
I think we cracked it last time, Josh, when we talked about it. Is that it's not different enough? He's 35 as opposed to like what 25, 30 in the regular book, like. Mm-hmm. Okay, he's married to Mary Jane. He's got 2 kids, and his Uncle Ben's still alive, and obviously Gwen's still alive. But it's like he as a character is not different enough. At least the original Ultimate Spider-Man, you went from 25 to 30-year-old in the main book to a 16-year-old in the Ultimate book, so it was clearly a different version of Peter. This is basically the same Peter Parker that I read in the other book this week.
So this is 4, and I feel like the hammer hasn't dropped on what the threat is. Not just the bad guy, but like sort of and I think Bendis did this to a certain extent because it was like a long run up.
He still wasn't even Peter Spider-Man at this point in the
right.
other book.
But so they're like, what are the sources of tension? All right, well, Ben and Jonah are trying to start this business. There's this weird relationship that is started up with Harry and then his wife, and then that goes, a bunch of different ways between the family. There is the thing that Peter's daughter, which seems to be the most, like, that's the worst mistake that will have been made in this, that will have consequences, is that she knows, but that's really right now. I don't know what the sword of Damocles is. Like, we haven't hinted at it at all.
My guess is won't be till 6 we find out.
Maybe.
The other thing that I'll say, and I don't want to spend too much more time on this, is that I think a storytelling mistake and a sign of how these books are written, not really for the single issue, is that the first page says April, and I've got no context for what that means. You know, like, was last month May or was it last month February? Like, I don't know what that means. It doesn't give me any information. Just that makes me ask questions, and I'm not going to remember. It was a month ago. I read a lot of comics every week. I'm not going to remember what month the end of book.
Say October, and you'd be like, "What?"
It just doesn't. It doesn't help me. It only hurts me as a reader.
I didn't even notice that.
I don't. I don't know where the one ended. I'm not going to be able to remember that after reading 18 books a week in between for 4 weeks. So that just tells you that these are designed to be read all together.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad comic, and I think if Kaketa had drawn this, I would have liked it more. Like I said, most of my problems was with the art. Messina isn't necessarily a bad artist. I don't think he was suited for this particular story. Kind of like how, in the old days, when Bendis was going all great guns, and they had Romita drawing his Avengers book, and he wasn't suited for lots of conversation either.
I think and I almost feel like apologizing to Ryan, but I also want to give context to like people who are listening. It's like, oh, he made this a pick and they picked on it. I can't figure this book out, and so I'm poking at it from every angle, trying to figure out what's working or not working about it. If that makes sense, I can't put my finger on it. That could be a good thing ultimately.
Ooh. Good job,
but the rule is it makes you happy. I can see why it made you happy. I don't know I want to know what it is. I need to understand before I can enjoy it, I think. Or at least this.
So last time Batman Dark Age book 1 came out, Josh and I, we were kind of unimpressed. Not unimpressed, but it didn't really do a whole lot for us. Now we're in book 2. Russell and Allred. What did you think of Bruce Wayne's adventures in Vietnam?
First of all, I barely remember to grab this because I was getting it mixed up with the Man-Bat or the Batman, whatever it is, the other one that is it Jurgens is doing? The Black Label one that's also going on at the same time. Yeah, and so it's funny because 2 weeks ago I was like, which is the one where like he's an asshole to Alfred? And I couldn't remember which book it was. So this came out, and I thought it was a trade of a book that I'd already read. I was like, oh wait, no, this is the new issue of the thing. All that said, I liked it. I think it was kind of one of the first things I read because I was like, oh, this is gonna be long. I'll just get it over with. And I kind of like the world. I like Mark Russell. I like as we get moving forward in time, Mark Russell's become more subtle depending on the need of the story. And I'm appreciating Mike Allred. I really enjoyed that other Superman book they did together. So I'm rolling with it. But as I sit here right now with the book not open, I don't remember what happened.
Ryan, you were one of, last 2 years ago when we were talking about Space Age. We all loved Space Age. We all made this pick of the week. One of our favorite books of the year. We haven't talked to you yet about this book, Dark Age. What are your thoughts?
I kind of agree with Josh. Like the first issue, because it was an oversized issue, like I actually kind of stalled out on it, and I had to go back and finish it before reading this issue this week, which helped because like I didn't get to the reveal in book 1 that he got sent to prison for real, and so I had that context immediately fresh in my mind going into this issue too. The thing I felt about this issue is it kind of reminded me, Connor, of that.
Punisher.
No, well, the animated Brain Trust episode we did on the Soul of the Dragon.
Yeah.
Movie.
Yeah.
Because Batman as a member of like a commando unit, where they're all fighting sneaky types and darting around and stuff. So I liked the stuff in Vietnam probably the best out of anything in this issue.
Same.
Yeah. So Bruce is sent to prison, and in order to not be in prison, he agrees to go to Vietnam, and that's where he gets put in a commando unit. He's there with Oliver Queen, and I assume that's Maxwell Lord, the person who's called Max.
I couldn't figure that out, but thank you.
I assume it could be some other character named Max.
I made the same assumption. Yeah.
All run by Raj Al Ghul, and they run around in black outfits doing commando shit, and I thought that was really fun. I really love Nihilist Pariah in the boardroom, who is now running Wayne Enterprises, and they're all trying to give him projections and and he just won't stop talking about all the millions who are going to die, and all they care about is whether they're getting their quarterly bonus.
That was a very Mark Russell moment.
That was a hilarious page.
And in the previous issue, he mentioned, we only need to project out to 1985. So is this building to a crisis?
I assume.
That's what we talked about last time. The assumption is yes, but we'll see.
Oh, we got 17 years of runway, though. It's all good. That won't go fast.
I thought this was a much better
but also,
issue.
This is a flashback of Bruce writing his memories down, so we know that he at least survives.
Right.
Well, we don't. What year is the quote-unquote
2030.
present day?
2030.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I really like the first page where he says, life is like a movie where the first half is all love stories, fight scenes, and car chases, and the second half is about a man taking naps. I was like, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Man, can I propose that the middle part be more about naps too? I would like
Mark Russell really hits you hard sometimes. I thought this was good, and there's a whole sort of underlying thing where Superman has been discovered, but they keep waiting for him to show up in Vietnam to help, kind of like Dr. Manhattan, but he never does, and so it kind of leaves a chip on Bruce's shoulder, and then the next cover is Superman. So we'll see.
I think I gave it a little bit of a short shrift when I said I didn't remember what happened, because that might be a me thing. I do think, and in your credit where due kind of thing, is that, all right, so in the regular continuity in most of the stories, Bruce Wayne is full of rage, man on a mission, goes out in the world, whether he knows what he's looking for or not. He finds his way to all the greatest assassins and blah, blah, blah. I like this as not just a twist on things, but it is a different situation, is that his anguish and his grief and his misbehavior has led him into this point where he got in trouble in a way that he couldn't get out of it. And why did they send these people into Vietnam? I don't know. I don't care.
Right.
But basically, like, it had forced him to be in a position where this training from Kreese, I'm sorry. As I was saying it, I was like, I think that's the right name. I couldn't remember.
You got it. No,
Thank you.
Thank you. Sweep the leg, Bruce.
His training. Actually, you know what the thing is that I don't mean that character. I mean the character that guy played in the Rambo movie. Either way,
every movie, all his movies.
It's true. Anyway, so like this as a setup, as he's part of these jungle commandos in Vietnam, and that's where he gets a lot of these skills from. I like that. It's an actual difference in the story that leads you to the same place, but will give you other things to work with, but still works. I thought that was neat, even though I was like, this is the Punisher, but whatever.
It was an interesting way to develop his non-reliance on firearms and guns, because Ra's al Ghul has this philosophical opposition to them. So I like when they can introduce parts of the Batman mythos that are essential to the character and need to be included in some way, but they introduce it in a slightly different way than
Yeah, what's a different way to get there? It's always been the same thing, but they'll sort of change the window dressing around it. And this is a different route. He didn't choose this route. And that is interesting. Still gets there for the same reason.
Superman Space Age flew out of the gate. We loved it from the get-go. This might be a slower build to get to where it wants to go.
We'll see, and I trust Mark Russell in a way that I don't necessarily trust Jonathan Hickman. And also, this is weird. It's just weird enough that the thing about we're talking about Ultimate Spider-Man is that it's not weird at all. Right. This is weird. It's got Mike Allred drawing it right away, makes it weird. Mark Russell drawing it makes it weird. So that gives me, that's the anticipation for me. And next time it comes up, I'm going to remember it.
We're all about alternates this so far. Ultimate Spider-Man is an alternate Spider-Man. Dark Age is an alternate Batman. Now we're into talking about Drawing Blood, #1, which is an alternate take on the history of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. At least I hope it is. This is written by Kevin Eastman and David Avallone.
Kevin Eastman and David Avallone did the story, and then the script is by Avallone.
Right.
But the character,
I should know how to pronounce this. Avallone or Avallone?
Avallone.
It's Avallone. I actually know him.
So it's Avallone. And then Ben Bishop's on art, except for there's some flashbacks that Kevin Eastman does the sort of finishes on, and some other Troy Little does some finishes on another part.
So
when
you're going through the books and you go, "What's this?" You see on #1. I'll always be like, "All right, what's that?" And it says Kevin Eastman. All right, and then the story behind the stories, and it sort of just says I kind of basically was like he's telling his own story. but with the whatever. And I was like, okay.
But with
and
some
then,
more action and adventure and guns.
I know. And then like right away doing blow in a car, Russian gangsters, gunfights. I was like, and what I want desperately to believe is that this man, this okay cartoonist from Maine, fucking went balls out after he was rich and things just went nuts. I don't know how true it is, but I don't want to know if it's any more boring than this.
Well, I mean, it's fictionalized. They're not, it's not Kevin Eastman.
I know
the characters.
I know that, but there's elements in here that are real, and I want to, and I like to just let my imagination
including
go.
Julie Strain.
Yep.
Yeah, I it feels like if we did a book about the history of iFanboy, but we added like at one point we had to fight ninjas in an alleyway. That might be that's sort of the case.
Oh, you guys weren't there when that happened to me and Paul?
No.
It was
That's
wild.
why we'd make it about us. So I actually wish, and I know why it didn't happen. I know why it can't happen. I actually really wish that Kevin Eastman had drawn the whole thing, because I really loved the segment in the middle where he did the finishes about the flashback to when he meets Peter Laird, or the fill-in for it. And the other thing, the way it's fictionalized, is the Peter Laird character kills himself in this book. So what does that mean for their relationship?
And he's drawn like Jim Steranko.
Right, he does.
I love that also, like, and the seeds of their not, whatever their acrimony is are clearly here.
Right.
Like, he's an asshole, and he's apparently in this, he's much older than Kevin Eastman.
Right. So it's just interesting to take like a seminal moment in comics history and a seminal partnership and a seminal property. I mean, we did a whole show we did a whole book split of the Turtles earlier last year. And sort of fictionalize it as a sort of action story is an interesting. I don't know if I've ever read a book like this before.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I wish Eastman had drawn the whole thing, I liked the Ben Bishop art, and I thought this was fun.
I didn't know what to expect, and I think that there was a lot here that I liked. Largely, some people think of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and rightly so, a gigantic worldwide corporate property. Another part of us know that at least part of it comes from this 80s indie comic scene, which is very different than that. But it is born of that. And this book feels like it is of that time, just down to the style of art, down to the way that the story is being told. And at the end of the day, all this is one more indie cartoonist exploring their past life and telling their own story and about how they feel shitty about what they've done.
No, I mean, this is the Hey Kids comics, but for the Ninja Turtles.
It's just his version of it. And I didn't know what
I think we need to clarify again. It's not quite that.
Yeah.
For anyone who hasn't read this and look like you don't pick this up assuming it's a retelling of it's an action story
read this and take it literally as Kevin Eastman's life and tell everybody about it. You know what I read about the guy who created Turtles? It was crazy. But like, it is his version of that in terms of like when his id said, we're going to make a comic about it. This is what came out. And when Howard Chaykin's, id said, that's what that came out of his. That's fascinating to me.
Do you think that when Kevin Eastman's friends came over, Julie Strain just stood around naked?
I mean, it's here in ink.
I mean, we all saw her naked anyway, so.
I saw it naked, but in squigglies. I didn't know it was her. Every once in a while, it would solidify into a black and white negative image.
So you had to work for it. So anyway, I actually really like this. I was excited for it when I saw what it was. I love the cover. It makes me feel happy to see that style of art.
Yeah.
Which, it's not polished and it's not what you'd get now, but it has like we talked about the Turtles. It evokes a time and a period in comics that's very special. And, this was fun. This was totally out of the blue and super fun. And I'm looking forward to reading more of it.
I had no expectations going into this and greatly enjoyed it. And I've liked David Avaloni's work for a while, so I was glad to see him involved with this. So good job, everybody.
Yeah, it was like the thing where we're saying it wasn't Patron Pick, but it could have been. And I was just like, you should just read it for a lot of reasons. It's not just like, it wasn't me just going, this is a great comic. It's just like, there's a lot here.
A lot to talk about.
Yeah, like just in every angle you want to look at it.
I mean, it's been said on the show before, but I'll just say it again. Like, there's a pretty obvious argument to be made that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the most successful indie comic book of all time.
Yeah, Of course it is.
Yeah.
I
So
can't
it's just
think of another one.
it's just cool.
I mean, in terms of dollar value, it might be The Walking Dead, but it's probably the Turtles.
Yeah, but are they going to be making? I mean, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has been preeminent in culture for.
No, I think it's the
years.
Turtles. I'm saying the only one that
Yeah.
could possibly
I know,
give
I'm
it a run
just-
for its money.
No, I think you're right, Connor. But I yes.
Monetarily, yeah, you're exactly right. But I think
I mean, they're even rebooting it. You know, this week we're not talking about it. This week was the final issue in quotes, and then it's getting rebooted with Jason Aaron, which I'm going to be reading when it starts over.
Cool.
So, Josh, we haven't talked about the Avengers in something like 7 issues.
Huh.
But,
What does that say?
Well, yeah, but this was worth mentioning because this was the final issue edited by Tom Brevoort, which, you know, it's only in comics do we talk about the editor, but 26 years was it? I'm having
it's
my
like
Kindle
Johnny
won't open.
Carson stepping down.
Right.
It's a bad
From the Avengers. Yeah.
That's wild stuff, Josh.
Okay, so we're going to do that, are we?
So
Nope,
there was
go
there was a tribute cover that was done, and it's shown in the back of in the letters page, where Ron Lim drew the flip side of the famous George Perez Kurt Busiek #1 issue. With all in that cover, all the characters are running at us, and this one, they're all running away, and it's all running away from him.
That's brilliant.
But you know, this book has been okay, not bad. I've been enjoying this issue. Was an X-Men tie-in. One previously was an X-Men tie-in, and I enjoy that because you just when's the last time an Avengers book tied into an X-Men story other than like Avengers versus X-Men?
Yeah,
but it's just been okay. It's just been like all these books. It's just been okay.
I like what it's going for. I think that there is an element to make it really big. And while it is a bit of a ripoff of the Authority to have this big sentient city in there, it's a big idea that's fun to have them have this place to be. I like it better than the Sentinel Mountain, which was a good idea, but ultimately...
The Celestial Mountain.
Yeah, sorry, Celestial.
I'm just trying to cut off the letters.
Yeah, no, I will say, here's the thing. I don't think Connor was on the show last time, and I don't think I put it on the show. But in the last issue, we see that there is a character named 3D Man.
What do you mean? We all know 3D Man. You don't know 3D Man?
Well, we do this triathlon in our day.
Okay, so
Fair
what
enough.
I'm saying is, I'm reading it, and I go, wait, this looks like it's triathlon, but he's evil, and they're calling him a 3D Man. And then he says, I done been wronged by the Avengers, and it was like way back. It was like the scroll, whatever it was. He says what it was, but it was years and years ago. And I thought, first of all, I've been making jokes about triathlon for a very long time. When I played Marvel Snap,
college.
yeah,
because college.
It's like it's such a terrible, mundane but utterly rememberable misstep in Avengers world that is charming.
I think the only misstep in that awesome series was
triathlon. And the fact is, like, I love it because of that. And then if there was ever a character who I thought had been a hero and comes back as a villain, I was like, I buy this. Like
I actually did really like that too.
I bought it so hard. And because I hadn't seen any of the things that led up to this with that character, whatever, he just showed up and I was like, is that because I haven't seen Triathlon since then, and I talk about him constantly. You gotta understand. Triathlon, if you're at home, sounds like something we would make up for a patron. He has 3 times the whatever of a normal human. Right. And like, there's a bit in this issue where he's like, is it MODOK? Right, it's MODOK, right?
It's MODOK,
yeah.
So MODOK's like, oh no, the Avengers are here. And he goes, just 2 of them.
And I'm 3 of any people.
And I was like, it's so good. So, and here's the thing. And you're going to say, Josh, did you like this issue? And I'm going to say, yes, I loved this issue, largely because of that. But what we got was a twist that I did not see coming and that I found utterly enjoyable. It was complete Deus Ex Machina. Oh, all this time, 3D Man had been memory transplanted just like Firestar.
Sleeper agent,
but more so as a sleeper agent, and I was relieved. 10 seconds ago, I told you, yeah, I buy him as a villain, and then you said he wasn't. I was like, Triathlon's back, baby.
Justice for Triathlon.
The thing I never got. I understand 3 times the strength.
Doesn't
of a
make
human.
sense. And when you try
I
to,
understand.
it falls apart.
I understand 3 times the speed. I've never understood 3 times the agility. What does it mean to be 3 times more agile?
So you know how you turn on a dime? He turns on 30 cents.
Wouldn't that be the other way around? Yeah.
3.333 cents.
Triathlon became 3D Man during Avengers Initiative.
That's a while ago.
He was in the camp. I don't know, running the camp, whatever. He was involved in the initiative, and he officially changed his identity to 3D Man, which is I think a worse identity than Triathlon.
Yes,
you're also completely correct that it's a patron power running wild in the 616.
Yeah, it's great, and it's stuck. He's like, I mean, it's funny. Like this is Tom Brevoort's last issue as the editor, and I don't know what the first thing he did, but he said 26 years. Did he start with Busick's Avengers run, which was my first like real
was that
Avengers
26
run?
Years ago?
Could have been just about. It's just about.
And so 98. So yeah, that would have been it. Yeah.
If that's the play, so we're going to bring back this character from my first arc
and give him another little push.
And then, but then also make him a hero again. It's great.
Right. Yes. Sorry, I'm reading his essay. His he came back. He was given Avengers Post Heroes Reborn, which was the Perez Busick book. So that's his first
legendary book.
So we jumped on that in college, and he's been editing that book ever since, which is crazy.
Yeah, and so I start reading the essay and that's the final issue, and I was like, oh, Jed McKay's off this, and then I sort of flipped forward, and I was like, because the writers don't often write the essay in the books, so
it's usually the editorial.
Yeah, so I thought, but it said final issue, and I was like, all right, and then I saw it was Tom Brevoort, and I went back, wait. Like that was like that hit me. I was like, "Oh no, that's just a constant."
They should have put that at the top because it was a 2-page essay. You didn't see it till you flipped the page. You should have been, a note from Tom or something like that, just so you weren't confused. But yeah, I mean, this 2-parter was fun as all these tie-ins of the X-Men have been. So if you talk about the most enjoyable issues of this Jed McKay run, probably for me, it's been 12 and 13. Mm-hmm. I still would love them to slow down a bit. I know that it's impossible now. I still would love some sense of why this team is together and what their purpose is, other than just being the Avengers. Why is it this team? Why are these people at this time?
Here's some random criticism, though. Mm-hmm. The leader of this team is Captain Marvel, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Who can't be there because this other
for more than a few minutes. Yeah.
Because she has to switch places with her because that was in the movie that nobody's going to remember in 6 months.
Everybody's already forgotten.
I know. Which I enjoyed, but I was like, this doesn't need to be here. If you don't make Captain Marvel the leader of the Avengers, if she's not allowed to be there, that's a good reason to be replaced in the org chart.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to really be Black Panther, and at least on the field level. But it's fun, and it's just that we spent a lot. Was it last time or the time before? We talked a lot about the end of the Gosh storytelling, and I in looking around. Researching for this issue, I went down a rabbit hole on Tom's blog, which is actually really terrific. His Substack, and he does a letters column in everyone where he answers questions that people ask him in the previous one and then in the comment section. And Carl Kessel, a lot of pros show up asking questions, which is funny. Carl Kessel actually asked about that very thing, about how storytelling has changed. It doesn't allow for smaller stories anymore. It doesn't allow for some of the most famous stories in the history of comics were those one-off stories that were just about the characters, not about the world being at stake, and you just don't have that time for them anymore. And I think it hits all superhero comics, but I think it hits the team books harder.
Yeah,
because there's so many characters to juggle, and you don't ever get to just hang out with them for a moment. Like I think there was like that one scene in the Jason Aaron book where they were all hanging out in the pool or the hot tub in the Celestial or the Sentinel, the Celestial. And that was like the only time I can remember them even slowing down for a moment. And it hits these team books hard because the team books are all about relationships, and they don't get to really examine them when they're just constantly fighting for the fate of the universe, which is a bummer. But I think this is fun and good on Tom. Tom's moving over to the X-Men, and all the X-Men fans over there are in a tizzy, and that's what they do. And good luck dealing with all that.
The natural state of things. Listen,
Josh, I'm looking at the power grid for Triathlon, our beloved Marvel database power grid. He's only got a 3 in 2 of the 6 categories, and that feels like a big swing and a miss, right?
That's a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, that would indicate that the average man
Is
well,
a 1.
there you go.
That makes
I mean,
sense.
maybe that's it. Maybe that's how you look at these kind of things.
The
He's
baseline
not
work.
worth. See, the thing is that it's the basic math is bad for a guy who's supposed to be acting like a genius because
So
he's
here's
3
the deal.
normal men. He's not 3 caps.
Well, that's right. That's what we always. That was kind of the joke in college, right? It's like, what is the baseline? Is it like a guy who's super fit and strong, or is our buddy Scott, right?
He listens to the media split, but not this, thank God.
I love Scott. I drove
I know
across
what you're
country with Scott.
I know what you're saying.
But
He's
like,
not-
if Delroy's intelligence is 3 times that of a normal person, how is his intelligence on the power grid only a 2, whereas his strength is a 4?
Have you met most people?
Yeah, the
They're
average
stronger
person
than they are smart.
Right, and you spend a lot of time in academia, where perhaps the numbers are higher than most places.
That's fine. I just feel like if his
I drove past a Corvette today, and the license plate said 2 nuts for you. And that guy could afford
In that
the
case,
Corvette.
maybe 2 is too high.
That's what I'm getting at.
I think you need to change your license plate to say 3D man for me.
I might. No, because he's back to triathlon. That would be too hard to explain.
Is he? No, I think he's still 3D man.
Whatever. People would. I would do. I would do.
I just think triathlon's too long for a license plate.
Then I would get out, and people would look at me and be like, "I don't see it."
Do you know we're like 20 minutes over time?
I do, and I've been unable to even fit in the fact that we're definitely not getting to email. So I'm gonna quickly go through these bits. I'm giving it short shrift. I'll tell you right now. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Great community of people who are helping support the show. If you are able to be part of it and you think that it would be the right thing for you to do, then please do. There is a Discord and a Facebook group for folks to hang out and talk and chat, and it's really good. There's a monthly patron hangout. You can join into a yearly membership. There's merch. It's all there at patreon.com/iFanboy. There's the patron pick and the patron power. We'll get to those later, and I'll even explain it to you. So leave a little bit of a little suspicion there. Suspense, not suspicion, different word. iFanboy.threadless.com. We have 13 designs. You can put them on t-shirts and other things. iFanboy.com/support. There is a PayPal link. If you don't want to deal with any of that and you want to find a way to support the show, you can do it there. We appreciate everybody who does that. I keep saying that because I really mean it. And I don't know how else to get it across. And then finally, iFanboy.com/Amazon is a general affiliate link that goes into Amazon, and things are linked on Booksplode and where they are appropriate. And bookshop.org, where that is appropriate on the website, you will find links to buy books through an aggregate of independent bookstores who are great people to help you out. Now, the thing about the Avengers was it had a great moment that I was surprised about that made me joyous.
Yes.
Duke said, "I'll take that and I'll double it." Duke, okay.
This
is the spoiler. This is the spoiler. I could totally see how that would be. So Duke gets killed. Sorry, in the book, and I thought, well, all bets are off. I don't know what's going to happen with any of this shit because it's the Energon universe version of and you give him the thing and you build Duke up and then you kill him off. I guess that can happen. And then Duke's not dead, so they got me twice.
Duke number 5, the final issue of this miniseries, where Duke defeats the Bats. We meet sexy Destro. They fake Duke's death in order for him to start G.I. Joe for Colonel Flag. And so the book ends with him and Stalker. I'm sorry, Colonel Hawk. Duke and Stalker and Rock and Roll and Clutch, somehow Clutch is now involved, are all starting G.I. Joe. And we also get that character handoff to Scarlet, where Scarlet shows up with Hawk to brief Duke on the Transformers, and the next miniseries is going to be Scarlet, and as well as Destro. So it's kind of a deft, sort of daisy chaining of the characters here.
Absolutely, and it fooled me.
It was. I did too. I was like, oh shit. Partially because I just finished Trade Volume 5 of the original one. I got delayed when I had to read the Booksplode and some other things and my trips and everything. So that's issue 50. 50 is the introduction of Serpentor. Duke is still barely in it. Barely in it. And so much so he showed up and I forgot. I was like, oh shit, Duke. It's just interesting. That's all.
I think Larry Hama would watch the show and be like, what's this guy in it so much for? But Ryan, you were going to put this on here. I'm curious. You're not like us.
But he loves Duke. He loves this series. Though.
Yeah, I made this pick of the week in a previous episode. No, I'm loving this series. This one, I'm not as well versed in the G.I. Joe lore as the two of you. I watched the show a little bit growing up. I never read
for 9-year-olds. You can follow.
But I wasn't 9 when it was
That's
coming
super
out, Josh.
complex. That's super
fair.
complex.
So this was a book, a couple of books this week, one of which we're still yet to talk about. I was reading while Cal was crawling all over me, and I did the page turn of the reveal of Sexy Destro, and Cal saw, much like he saw Electro and went, "Ooh, who's that guy?" Which I get a lot when I read these comics. And please don't crucify me. I had to say, I think that's Destro. Because that's how far gone I am. It's like fine. I wasn't totally sure that was Destro when I saw it. You're not in it. Like you weren't the age for it. But I was right. No crucifying you for it.
Did you see them focus in on his ruby?
Yes.
Like they spent a lot of time looking at that. I was like, oh, that's going to be something. And then they went to the bat.
I think it was more of just a way to show him without showing his face until they did the big reveal of his.
No, there was something going on there.
You think he's going to become Juggernaut?
I just hope that he is more. They really sort of lean in more of his Scottish, because he's a Scottish laird, and I hope they actually play with that as opposed to just ignoring it. And
Peter Laird of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird.
Yes,
that's where the name comes from, doesn't it?
Basically, making him a black man in the cartoon. So I just hope they play with the Scottish bit a bit more. But I'd love sexy red suited, open shirted Destro with the 70s chain.
Is that your Halloween costume now, Connor?
I mean, if I still dressed up,
hundreds of people like you. Like, what is that? And then can you I just want you to close your eyes and picture him trying to explain. Well, there's Destro,
right? So
there's a different version.
I will say that the new movies, they actually played him Scottish. They actually did that correctly. Blade 10.
Blade 10.
This is the final issue of this series of Blade, and I've talked about it a couple of times, I think, before. I'm not sure. Am I the only one reading this?
No. Although I almost missed this because I forgot I was reading it, but I am reading it because it's Brian Edward Hill, and I'd been through the 9 issues, so I'm on it.
I actually thought this was a really strong series all the way through, and I think the word I kept coming back to it the last time we talked about it on the show was cinematic, and I would continue that throughout. It's been the same creative team for all 10 issues. It's been Blade fighting this demon called Adana that he accidentally released and then accidentally empowered with an even better sword. And so, it's the sort of overarching arc of this series is Blade has to get a better blade to defeat this demon that he unintentionally released into the world with the help of an unlikely cast of characters, including, Dracula teaching him to use his powers better and some young women that he's been mentoring and the ghost of a guy he killed who's one of the young women's dad. And I just thought this was a really satisfying conclusion to this story, and it looked it was
Elena Casagrande killing it. Yes.
Yeah. The art was just super slick and sexy throughout. And
was there any sort of tension with Dracula? Because I believe the big event coming up is the moral universe versus vampires.
Well, he drank of Dracula so that he could unleash all of the most strength and power in him, including the bad parts, to defeat the ultimate villain. And
would you say he's 3 times the average vampire?
I think something like that. I haven't done the math, but the average vampire is like a 0.8. So
I mean, he's got 2 blades. He does get access to a 3rd blade by the end of the series. So I guess if the average person has 1 blade,
I mean, the average person has no blades. So
you don't have an everyday carry, Josh?
Nope.
Come on, get your act together.
So we'd say like a third of people have a blade. So that makes everybody like a.
Wait, you're saying 1 out of 3 people walk around carrying a knife?
So 10% of people would be.
I carry a knife on me all the time.
Yeah, but you're not normal.
Okay. It's just, it's a Leatherman. It's like a tool. It's a multi-tool, but it includes a knife.
Actually, you know what? I used to when I was directing, I used to carry a Leatherman.
It comes in handy all the time. Usually the screwdriver function. Yeah. If something is loose, I tighten it down.
If you're jumped by thugs in jean jackets with no sleeves.
Sure.
Although don't drop it because they'll get it and they know how to wave those things around.
So I'm sorry. So it's a bummer it's over. Blade usually goes about 10 issues. And that's about it.
Yeah. Did you read this?
No, I didn't read it.
I think so.
Did I read the first one? I just don't care about Blade. I've tried. I've tried my whole life.
I don't either. I showed up for the creative team.
I can't make it through the movies. I don't know.
There was I thought the last, I don't know if it was the last page, but there's a bit where, they're like, what do we do now? And he goes, we've done enough today. And he just sits down on the cliff and looks out. And I was like, that's actually nice. Cause he's always like going on to kill some bloodsuckers. It was Like he was like, I'm just gonna rest, and I was like, I feel you, Blade.
I would love to just sit and look out over a vista and not be bothered for a couple of days.
I would love to say that while the sun is still high in the sky, the phrase "I've done enough for the day, I'm done."
Let's talk about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Apparently, 119.
119.
They're ending this book, right?
I don't. Where did you see that? Tell me.
You keep talking, and I'll look it up.
Okay, cool. Melissa Flores is still continuing to write this with Simona Di Gianfelice and Raul Angulo on art and colors, and lettered by Ed Dukeshire. The only reason I really wanted to bring this up is we're sort of at a lull in the Darkest Hour storyline, and the main thing that we're dealing with the fallout of is Lord Drakon is dead. So that's a big deal. But the Ranger Slayer from his universe has brought back his white power coin to the main universe. And so now they
white
have
power?
Yeah, and it's not great, Josh. It gets better, Josh. The white tiger, I guess it's white tiger power coin, is the only incorruptible power coin of all the power coins, with the Dark Spectre energy taking over the morphing grid. And so Billy is able to figure out a way.
In here.
So Billy is able to figure out a way to infuse Rangers within the circumference of the two white tiger power coin link with white tiger power morphing energy. And so I had this moment where a bunch of Rangers morphed, and there's this risk when they morph these days, because if they morph within the influence of the Dark Spectre's infection of the power grid, they themselves become infected. So that's like a problem. And they all morphed, and I had a moment of like, wait a second, that's not what their morphing uniforms are supposed to look like. And then all the characters went, wait a second, this isn't what our morphing uniform are supposed to look like. And Billy was like, that's right, because I found a workaround. And so it's all of their normal costumes fused with the white tiger power sort of coloration and shielding, and it looked really cool. And I was like, I've never seen that before. That's a neat idea. Like, I've never seen a Yellow Ranger with like white tiger power armor and other sort of branding on it. So it was just an idea that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, because the thing is it's fused with eugenics. So that is a unique way to go about this.
You can only do it that one time, and then you can never make comics again. Ryan, so according to Boom, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers universe comes to a shocking end. The 8-year saga ends here with the final issue of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from Boom Studios, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Darkest Hour #1 in July.
All right, so I've got until then to make it a pick of the week and force you both. That's the arc that's happening right now is Darkest Hour, because it's the Dark Spectre, Josh.
Does Churchill show up?
Well, no, it's the Dark Spectre is infected with the morphing grid with negative energy.
He's the secret ranger. It's Churchill. He's the portly one.
I'd read that issue. You show me that when that happens.
And let us not forget that Lord Zed has a power coin. So Lord Zed is now technically a ranger, and that's we cannot forget that. That's a really important piece of this.
People think it's just going to get rebooted with a new #1, but we'll see. I'm not.
I love that you approach that with like a level of completely unearned like certainty. You're like, people think it, but I think we'll see.
I don't know. I'm not seeing exactly.
I mean, we've talked offline about this being a bit. I've read enough of these issues that I'm in. Like, I'm legitimately in on this story. So I'm going to see where it goes. And if I'm on the show the week that the issue comes out, I will report in to the loyal listeners who need to know what's going on.
Well, you weren't kidding about not having time for the email. Go ahead, Josh.
Forget it. It's fine.
Those are the books we wanted to talk about, but at patreon.com/iFanboy, all the patrons get a chance to vote to add a book to the rundown. Every patron gets a vote, one patron, one vote. And this week, it led the whole way, but it got close at times. But the winner was Universal Monsters, Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives, #1 from Image. This is the latest in their Universal Monsters licensed series of books. This is written by Dan Waters and Ram V. Art by Matthew Robers, Dave Stewart on colors, and DC Hopkins on letters. And this is not the first time the patrons have voted for a Ram V book. And we've been searching for one that we could enjoy. Just doesn't click with us. And I like this. I enjoyed it. I don't know how much of that's Dan Waters. I'm not going to take away from Ram V. He was the co-writer, so I'm not going to say no caveats, no excuses. I enjoyed it.
Ryan?
I'll go ahead and admit now, typo in the script. It's Matthew Roberts, so apologies to Matthew for that. But Connor's diligent reading of the script caused me to catch it. I liked this fine. I have no real connection to the Creature from the Black Lagoon. When I worked in a comic shop, ironically, this was one of the movies that used to be on heavy rotation, but it was always with the sound off. So I've seen this movie probably a dozen or more times, but with no sounds and without captions. So I have no context for what the actual story of the Creature from the Black Lagoon is. And I felt like the thing I was reading this issue, this felt like an issue written for people who are really into the true crime thing, but I didn't understand that the serial killer that the woman was going after wasn't the creature at first, because I always thought the creature was the bad guy.
No, that was the point. They were trying to trick you.
Well, it worked, but it left me... but it just left me a little more perplexed than engaged, I think, the way it was at least framed within this particular issue.
I do not have any experience. I'm very familiar with the image of the Creature from the Black Lagoon. All of those Universal monsters were omnipresent in my life growing up, but I never actually watched any of those movies or knew anything about it because I wasn't interested in it. So I know the image of the Creature from the Black Lagoon. It ends there. And so I read what was the Dracula one before this, I think, because they're doing all these Universal. And, that was fine, but I don't care.
I don't know if that even finished.
I may not have. It wasn't bad. I think
I was enjoying
that. I think
it was the fourth.
Yeah. And
I have three issues.
Oh.
No, in my folder. How many? Yeah, 3 issues have come out of that.
Yeah.
So they didn't.
I only read the
didn't
first.
finish it. It was
so anyway, I started this, and I got. I'm not gonna lie, Rom V. I haven't read anything I've liked. Just not a thing. And
wait, was that only 3 issues? Sorry, I'm not on a whole rabbit hole.
You could if you could quietly take that off to the side.
I will
and come
stop.
Back to the
I will stop
conclusion.
talking. I will stop talking.
That would be good. Been doing this for a while. Toby Toby Wong, Toby Day. You know that? Did anyone get that one? I know at home you did. Lawrence Tierney. That's my clue on that. Anyway, so I expected not much, and this was sort of it became the patron pick, and I was like, I was hoping to be drawing blood because that was really fun to talk about. We did it anyway, but I'm not. I guess surprisingly, like I was like, this wasn't bad. I'm not super into it, but I thought it looked good. I thought it read well. I thought, and Dan Waters is another name that I've been seeing around a lot more. I think
they're both English.
Yeah, I was going to say they're both British.
I mean, I liked it. I didn't think this was the best comic I've ever read. Yeah. I thought this was a solid first issue that teases out the mystery. You don't meet the creature till the very end. You're introduced most to this. There's always a blonde woman. There's always one of those in the Universal stories, and so we spend most of our time with her. She's got a lot of problems.
I think she was fairly well. I was gonna say drawn, but I don't mean like conceived.
As a character, she was well drawn.
Yes.
Realized,
yes,
and it doesn't hurt that Matthew Roberts is a good penciler, and Dave Stewart gives it this wonderful look, especially the swampy bits, the swamp scenes.
Yeah,
and
but.
I'm into it. I didn't love it. I was into it. I enjoyed reading it.
The end of it, though, I didn't really know what to make of it. Like I didn't know this significance of what happened. I understood early on that the man that she was chasing was a red herring because they showed him with a little girl, and I was like, no, it's going to be something else. Like he's not the bad guy. She's convinced he is, or whatever. And he came in and got a bunch of medicine or something like that. But I don't know. I feel like I could have used a little more information so that the end of it meant anything to me.
Well, I mean, I don't think you're supposed to know the details. I
don't need to know the details. I need something to hook me because right now I don't have anything. I don't care. Like I needed some other hook. Then they'd be like, I got to read this next one, and I did not get.
I think you cared. It just depends on how much you connected to the female character.
I guess
that's the only thing.
And I had a hard time understanding why she was in this town on the banks of the Amazon.
Well, she was chasing this dude.
I get that, but that was kind of dribbled out in drips and drabs, and then there was that moment where she's in the swamp and she's been chasing the guys, and she loses. They get away from her in their skiff, and then like she thinks she hears something behind her, and she pulls a gun, but she doesn't actually see anything. And so rather than just go back the way she came, she decides to cross the river.
Bad
and I was
call.
like, well, that's a terrible choice.
Yes, I agree with you. And I noticed that as well.
Yeah. So
I don't know if you know the name of this book, lady, but that was the wrong way to go.
I thought it wasn't like, super clever, but I thought having him sort of appear first in the background
That was good.
was good.
I did a double take on those panels, which is not something I can remember happening. I went, wait, is
Mhm.
that? And then it was really well done. It was like
yeah,
a
good
way of
storytelling.
making cinematic stuff work in static sequential storytelling. That was pretty good.
Agreed.
I mean, it's all gonna depend on the second issue and when we finally actually know what's happening. This is again, like most things, a cold open to the story where he saves her from the swamp and she's passed out, and it's we'll see. But I didn't when I saw it, I was like, oh, they're gonna try Ram V on us again, and I we already had Detective Comics this week. It's just and I'm not a huge James Tynion IV fan. I've liked some things he's done,
Sure,
but I quite enjoyed his Dracula book, whether it's over or not after 3 issues, I can't tell. But I think there's a certain elemental strength to these characters. Duh. No big surprise. Like, newsflash, Dracula is an enduring fictional character. Frankenstein's an enduring fictional character.
but it's specifically these universal versions of them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I think there's a certain some of the lifting is being done by the
Mhm.
the cultural osmosis of the characters, and these characters are always around in some form or fashion as a child,
Yes.
whether they're appearing in cartoons fighting the Scooby-Doo and the gang, or the movies that were on Saturday nights, or Halloween, people dressed up as them. They were all the Phantom of the Opera, the Mummy, all those the Wolfman, all those characters were just omnipresent. So
Look, Mummy, it's a wolfman up in the sky.
let's do ratings on Universal Monsters: Creature from the Black Lagoon lives! Number 1. Out of 5, I'm going to give it 3.5.
I was also thinking 3.5.
Oh,
3.15. Nearly
you're going to read
5.
issue 2. You're sticking with it.
I think
I am.
yes.
I'm going to go with probably, because I can't promise it. I
You
can't.
never made it past Dracula number 1,
No, I don't really.
which is fine, but
This was better than that, or at least more
Okay.
compelling to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not into sexy vampires. I understand.
I'm not into vampires. I never have been. I don't.
Are you going to read the Marvel event where they fight vampires?
I don't know that I'll have a choice.
Which I feel like they just did.
They did it in.
Wasn't there an event like a year or 2 years ago where they
It
fought
was
the
in
vampires?
Aaron's Avengers run, and it spilled
Right.
into other stuff.
Now they're doing it again.
I think that was precursor. Past his prequel.
Probably. It probably is. All right. So thanks for being a patron. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron gets the vote. It's more fun when more patrons vote. It's always interesting to see. This was a nice, fun race of several books that were in it this week. But if you give it a $5 higher level as a patron, you get a superpower live on the show. And I must say that the other night I thought of one that I thought was really good, and I didn't write it down, and I don't remember what it was. So hopefully Ryan didn't have that problem, because you're giving the power out this week.
I had one written down and I checked the database and it's been done. So I'm a little bit fucked. give me 2 seconds.
This is your moment. You don't take 2 seconds.
You got to just go.
You got to start
you gotta
talking.
jump in. Yeah, give him something. It's Jarrod Patrick, the man of 2 first names.
I've got one, but I can't do it for you. See,
no, you can't. I don't want you to. I don't want it.
He just you got to grab. You never did improv,
I've also thought
did you?
of one. Yeah, you take improv.
I did. I didn't make the improv team. If that wasn't obvious enough from my floundering.
You got to go with what. Listen, you got to go with what pops into your head, and you just start.
Just
You can't
build on it.
You can't overthink
Build
it.
on it.
You can't think. Is it good enough? Is it not good? You just start going.
Is that why a lot of my powers are based on things on my desk? Yes.
Yeah.
And then I build on it.
Mhm.
Well, this is dead
You're
air.
not allowed to edit this out.
Yeah, you got to keep it in.
Sucks.
You
Okay.
You're gonna live in your shame.
Oh no!
I'm telling
Okay,
you, point to me right now. I'll give you a power. Won't be good, but it'll make Connor laugh.
No, I don't want that. I don't want
Then
that.
talk, boy.
I'm trying so hard.
You're doubting your instincts. That's all that's happening.
Yeah, just go with it.
There's not
It
that
doesn't
there's-
have to be great.
It's not that there's no ideas. It's that you're like, I don't know if that's gonna. You just go.
Jarrod Patrick has chromatophores interspersed all throughout his skin.
Go on.
That's it's the thing that octopodes have that allow their skin to like change color, not just color, but color and texture. Also, it's not based just on their conscious thought, but also their emotional state. So, like,
is Jarrod able to?
He's an octopus man.
Is
octopus skin man?
Okay? A couple of questions. Is Jarrod able to control it at all times?
Yes.
Okay, because you said sometimes it's just their emotion or whatever. So, like,
well, but like, I mean, it's the
if you embarrass
him,
does he blend into a wall?
It's sort of like
Does he shoot ink out?
It's Bruce Banner, where he's got to he has to work to control his emotional state to not react to things, so that his emotions are seen on his skin through the chromatophores. But remember, it's also
meditation and yoga. Just keep breath work.
Sit next to Blade on that cliff.
But it's like textural, so that if he's like up against a rock, not only can he make his skin look like the rock, it can have the texture of the rock too.
Further question. This was my second question. You said texture also. Now, is it actual texture, or is it just the appearance of the texture?
Well, it would have the 3D. It would have the same 3D pattern as the texture of the rock, but it wouldn't have like the hardness. It wouldn't be like as hard as granite.
It's more like a photograph,
right?
Hard as skin, but a 3D photograph. Like if you ran your fingers over it, it would feel superficially
like movie props. Like that boulder's actually made of styrofoam, but if it hits you, it doesn't feel like a rock.
A good analogy, yes.
Right. All right, good. See, that was interesting and good. Trust your instincts.
I don't think there's any ink production, but that remains.
If you had been in that X-wing in the trench, we'd be talking about Emperor Palpatine right now. But he's dead.
Maybe he goes through a secondary mutation where he can also
switch off your Patron power computer.
Trust your feelings.
Exactly. Just trust them.
You would have left like Wedge.
Yeah, you'd be like, I'm out.
Sorry. No, you didn't do that. You didn't give it up.
That's right. Congratulations.
And
we're proud of you.
Just because I don't want people to think Wedge knew from a tactical perspective that there was no help. There was no good. If anything, he was a hindrance. So he got out of there. And that was the right thing to do. It wasn't the most heroic move, but it was the right thing.
Well, he lived in just fight another day, destroy another Death Star.
And look how it worked out.
Here's the thing. I'd written octopus skin ? On a piece of paper, and then I'd written a different thing that had been used as a Patron power before. The part of myself, the part that I'm proud of, is that I pulled the word chromatophore from my head somewhere.
None of us
are surprised.
You're leaning into your strength there.
All right, so patreon.com/iFanboy. Thanks for being a patron, Jarrod. And unfortunately, for the second week in a row, now that we get the whole year and most of last year without skipping the emails, but for the second week in a row, we're going to skip them. And that's not good.
We talked about the books.
Not a good precedent.
There was good conversation about the books.
I understand.
That's the thing.
But part of the show. It's part of the show. People like it. It brings the people into the show. So we guarantee that next week we're going to do the one email.
I'm not.
That's my guarantee to you. Well, I'm editing it, I think. Yeah, I'm editing, so I'll make sure. I guarantee it.
I was ready to just leave you in the dust there. Did you notice that? He does not speak for me.
Yes. I'm not doing it. Contact at iFanboy.com. You can write in. Sorry for the person's email we skipped 2 weeks in a row.
No, the best part about what you just said is that there's several people out there who's like, he must be talking about me. I wrote a great email, and almost all of them will be disappointed. We don't.
Well, they won't mean they won't get on in the future.
Next week when you read it, though, only one person's going to come out of that satisfied of the letter writers.
Right. And listen, maybe if it's a light week, we'll do several. But we'll see.
I feel like I regularly come up with what I think would be good questions for discussion topics for an email segment, and I don't send them in because I'm too self-conscious.
Well, you can't send an email in. You are one of the hosts.
I feel like
I know. I don't send them in.
I feel like if you came up with like a fake account and sent in fake questions, we could spot it.
I don't think you could.
You really can't play improv, can you? You're like, no, I'm good at it.
This is not the first time you called me out on my lack of improv abilities.
Next year, iFanboy sending you to improv school. We're not doing that.
No, next year I think iFanboy does a real play Dungeons and Dragons podcast set in the 616 Marvel universe, and we Yeah, we'll see who the
I
real.
don't know how
improv
much time you
masters
think
are.
you have.
And that's from the man with no kids.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be unemployed by then, so that's fine.
All right, so thanks for writing in. You can write in for this show or for Mediasplode. If you're writing for Mediasplode, you can put Mediasplode in the subject line so we know what it's for. And so let's do some plugs. 2 weeks ago, we had our Mediasplode show on Dune Part 2 and the end of the What to Watch Next challenge, or at least the end of this year's What to Watch, or at least this time's What to Watch Next challenge. Josh, did you continue watching The Gentleman since then?
Yes, but the playoffs, the NBA playoffs are on, so it's slow.
I understand.
It's down. I'm going to. It's a fantastic show. Philadelphia just won.
Okay.
Sorry, that puts you in a time and place.
I shouldn't answer you when I'm drinking tea.
I've watched, I think, for the third or fourth one, but yeah, no, I'm a convert.
I just finished Drops of Gold. God, is very good. So we suck. Another mea culpa. Last week we said that for sure there would be a special show out this week. It would be either the Talksplode or the Justice League Crisis and Infinite Part 2 review show. Neither one of those shows happened. No fault of our own, but neither one happened. And so, sorry. We shouldn't guarantee things until they're
says the man who just made a guarantee.
Well, I have control over that. I don't have control over whether your guest pushes your interview or whether or not the movie's available to rent when the disc comes out, which is what's always happened in the past and it didn't this time.
This whole Discovery thing with HBO is a big problem.
Okay.
I mean, it's Max.
Warner Brothers.
That was a non sequitur. So that means coming in May, which starts next week, there's going to be 8 shows. There's going to be the 4 regular picks of the week, or is it 5? I think is it a 5 week?
I won't even guarantee I'm here next
9
week.
shows. Holy shit! It's 5. It's going to be 9 shows in May. 5 picks of the week. Talksplode, Booksplode, Justice League Crisis Infinite review, Mediasplode. So there's going to be 9 shows next month. 9. Also, I'm going to mention it again. We mentioned it last week. The Booksplode review for May will be Avengers Kree Skrull War. So if you want to read along with us at home, you can read those issues. I don't have it in front of me. I can't tell you the issues numbers for people who have Marvel Unlimited, but that is the
May is
Booksplode for
not
May.
Mathematically, but May is basically the triathlon of comic book podcasting.
It's mathematically.
Ooh.
Right, it is a triathlon. You're right.
You did the right thing comedically, was that you thought of a thing and then you said it and you owned it, and it was like, that's what you're supposed to do in improv. But what you said was awful.
That's why he said it.
I know. No, he had to. And like, he did everything right, and I should be playing along.
He made a dad joke on purpose.
But what he said made me upset.
Yes, and.
The thing is, we have, other than when Paul was the host, we've got a long history of the third chair not being in on the improv games.
That's true. That's true. It's very true.
Ding dong, who's there? It's a party guest. What's my quirk? This guy isn't good at improv.
Josh, finish this off. How are we so over? We were so close to finishing close.
We were right away. I was like, "Oh, we're in trouble," but it's okay because that's what I leaned into it. That's what's the thing.
It's fine.
Scrolling way down here, you can find our library of over 1,300, nearly 1,400 shows and counting. If we were the triathlon of shows, there would be 3,900 shows at iFanboy.com and wherever. I feel like I'm going to take a while to get rid of triathlon in my system, so maybe it'll be around next week too.
Would it be at 3 times as many shows, or a third of shows at 3 times the efficiency?
Yes. And follow us at iFanboy Comics on Instagram to find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out. Sometimes you can tell that I'm out of it because I'm just reading the words verbatim. Sometimes the best of the week in panels. You can follow us individually at CSGO Patrick at Instagram, J.A. Flanagan at Instagram, or Ryan Haupt, RyanHaupt on Instagram. Nobody do people spell your last name correctly in general?
No.
Never. Okay. Well, people can't spell Connor's first name.
Nope.
I figure they're doing it on purpose at this point.
Including my allergist who sent me some medicine in the mail and 2 ends.
That's like...
I like that like that was the guy who you thought.
No,
everybody,
I feel
he should have gotten it right.
No, because they should have that ends up being an insurance problem.
I see what you're saying.
Because they didn't put my name wrong and things get fucked. That happened with my primary care physician where they had my name spelled wrong, and so it all got screwed up for a while. And even I remember going to the allergist for the first time. This is a new allergist, and saying, "Hey, you just spelled my name wrong," and they went, "Oh," and I clearly didn't fix it.
You know what's funny is that I was literally going to say the sentence, and I'm going to go ahead anyway. I've been with you for so long. He says like he would say to his significant other, but I've been with you for so long that I assume that your way of spelling it is the correct way. But clearly the world is saying, no, Josh, you have some. Well, I know what you have. You have like
I have the Irish spelling.
Because like my name, the Flanagan, is the Irish spelling, which means there's only one N, and everybody spells it with two and I's. I'm sorry, I did it again.
Hey, scenes from a hat. Things you can say to your colorist that you can't say to your letterist.
Subscribe.
It's never that color when it comes out of me.
A letterist?
Letterers.
Subscribe to youtube.com/iFanboy.
That is a great name for a comic book, for a movie, like a semi-serious suspenseful movie about a comic book person who went like over the deep end, and it's called The Letterist.
Subscribe to youtube.com/iFanboy where you'll find all of our old video shows. We post this show there every week as well. Please consider leaving a review or star rating wherever you can rate or review podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. Please consider doing that. It helps the show, helps people find the show, it helps feed the algorithm. We don't know what exactly it wants, but so we're feeding it everything just in case.
We only want to please it.
Just please the algorithm. So thank you for listening. I had a super fun time doing it this week. I hope you had a fun time listening. I'm sorry about the emails. Thanks, Ryan. Until next week, I'm Connor.
I'm Ryan. Oh, I did.
I feel like I know people, and I want to try to get this letterist thing off the ground.
I went down to iFanboy. It was such a blast. We talked about comics, most of them from the past.
Oh boy.
Ryan had to give a power, but he couldn't say a thing that came his mind, but he said another thing anyway.
Oh, I did.
Colin Mockery.